This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped. Microphone a little revamped. Branding a little revamped. We're now officially the Past BT. So welcome all Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3, but we do what's called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host, BT. What's going on? What is good? Episode 301 of The Pass is here. We are back with yet another episode, and I am your host, BT. I hope everyone has been doing well. I hope everyone has been in positive and uplifting spirits this week or this month or the remainder of this year. I will start off with a little bit of a gem or some information, because I'm always about giving numbers and putting things in perspective, because we sometimes see things but we don't realize things. As of yesterday, this recording should go up today on Thursday, September 24th. As of yesterday, we are 100 days away from the end of 2020. And I know for some people it's like, thank goodness, it's about time. But I just, I think it's time for us to kind of not be too pressed on what was or what is, and just move forward as to what's ahead. And I know for a fact, like I've been in my planning sessions with my friend Special Sharice. If you have not followed or aren't keeping up with her on Instagram or on any other platforms, he's also doing the special plan. Definitely want to make it clear that she's been as accountable as anybody else can be on letting me know what I need to work on, and I'm here to let you all know whatever it is you need to work on, try to get it done. If it won't meant for you to do it this year, that means it's got to be done next year, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you used every excuse under the sun to not do it, then that's on you, and that's you having to be accountable. And that's kind of the nicest way I can put it. Like I said, we are on episode 301. I will make sure, because I didn't do the tab for it as of the recording, but I'm going to make sure I get into the stories at hand related to the NBA, and of course our infamous, I won't even say debacle, but our fun love or our fun struggles with football picks, and I'll get into that in a few. But like I said, this is episode 301, and we always like to do our breakdown of the player, the angel number for said number. And since like I said, this is 301, we're gonna get into that right now. The angel number 301 is fondly associated with self-expression. This is a message from the spirit angels encouraging you to be more expressive when the time comes to be. You may be in a situation where your opinion is always asked of. When this happens, you become afraid and not say anything. The angels are asking you to be more expressive than you already are. Speak your mind in a polite and respectful way. Encouragement is a symbolism of angel number 301. This is a sign from the angel numbers asking you to encourage those around you. This can be as simple as a person on the streets asking for food. Encourage them by blessing them with some food or clothing. Encourage your friends and those whom you love. As well, it can be a scenario where you know a certain person who is feeling low. Enlighten them and support them by inspiring them to have confidence in themselves too. If you are a person who never takes any initiative, the angel number 301 is telling you to begin going out of your way. This can be at work, where you have been given instructions to execute a certain task at work. Go above and beyond what is expected of your job profile, but keeping in line with what the results need to be. When you take initiative, the people around you believe that you can be trusted and relied on at all times. Trusting your instincts is a message from the angel number 3, number 0, and number 1. Believe in yourself and trust the choices that you make. Never second guess yourself. Seeking advice or opinion is not second guessing yourself, but is also a way of making the right decision. But when all is said and done, trust your instincts at all times. Maintaining a positive attitude is a message from the angel number 301. The current surroundings you are in may have you feel like giving up. Angel number 301 meaning is telling you to be positive and look forward to every opportunity that happens in your life. The angels will always be there to guide and protect you at all times. You have to be willing and open to the protectiveness as well. I know for me personally, this, as most of the sun signs do present themselves, and I want to make sure I don't forget to mention this. These are read from sunsigns.org. I've been using this link for probably at least 2 years on the show, so I don't want to deter from what's worked. And most of the numbers or most of the angel numbers that I have presented on previous episodes, looking at the number breakdown and even what is going on in the climax of where we are, it just comes at a perfect point. And I think this one is even stronger because I know from my personal experience and my personal verbiage, being expressive is one of my indifferent suits. I'm not going to say it's my strong suit. I'm not going to say it's a weakness. It's something that I'm in between on working on, because there are times when I'm given the opportunity to speak out and I become the quietest in the room. And lately I've realized personally that doesn't lead to good results. I'll just put it that way. So I'm just giving you all that information and just going over all of that with you to lead you into this episode, as well as leading you into your day, into your life, into your routine. And I really hope that message does resonate with someone in some manner, big or small, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, is giving a good message to those who are in need of it. We have reached our peak point of the NBA playoffs, and I want to make sure that I give this story its proper nod, because I do, if I recall correctly, coming into this episode, we witnessed the Bam Adebayo block that was, which of all, I mean, it's so interesting, because when a moment happens or a highlight occurs, it's no longer, okay, this was the best highlight for this point. We go and get into the archives and we find if this play or moment outweighed this player moment. Like Anthony Davis hits the winning 3 against Denver, and we bring up Robert Ory's winning 3 against Sacramento, and it's like, which 3 was better? And I'm just like, all right, okay, I hear you, I get it. But all jokes aside, Miami is ahead 3-1. I believe it was game 2. I recall being out and watching that game, and that particular game, Miami just played. They played their way and did what they wanted to do. If I'm remembering correctly, I might be wrong. I take that back. No. All right, rewind. So Boston played a very low scoring game, but it was a very structured offense in how they played. And I'm gonna break this series down a little bit to kind of just give the fans a little bit of a general idea. And I don't know why I'm saying low scored. It was pretty high. It was actually high scoring. So game one, Miami won, key block. They finished out that game. Game two, Miami won 106-101. Boston mostly had the lead majority of game three. Going into game three, I already had this conversation with a friend of mine, and it drew some questions because it's very important to look at with the Boston lineup. If I've already talked about this on the podcast, then you can skip ahead, but I wanted to bring it to attention on the show. Boston has an odd dilemma at positions. I initially put Marcus Smart in this conversation, but upon further review, just confirmation and just sheer logic, he's kind of out of this one. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Gordon Hayward all play the three. However, when this is something that Boston has been trying, and I think it helped them win game three, but it's also not going to be the win-all, be-all for the series. Boston tried to go small ball with their lineup with having, I think, Theis out of the game. Theis didn't play much. Cantor didn't play a lot. But they mainly tried to run like a smaller lineup. And that kind of put Kemba Walker in. Kemba Walker's going to play point guard. You'll have Smart coming in as a 2. He may come off the bench certain points. Then you have Jason Tatum at 3. You have Hayward. Oh, well, you would have Tatum at the 4 or 5, which is where it gets a little risky and tricky. Jaylen Brown at 4, and then Gordon Hayward at 3. Gordon Hayward has kind of been a no-show, and we talked about it. I believe I've talked about it before on the show. But it's good to have him back in rotation or in the lineup. But they need, if Boston is going to win 3 straight against Miami, it's not just going to be Tatum doing everything. Tatum right now can score at will. We know that. This even came up in game 4 where Tyler Hero showed, and it was a tweet or a post that was put out there of Tyler Hero is no longer a rookie. We need to give him his, put some respect on his name, to say the least. I think he scored 37 in game 4. And so, like I said, I'm going, as of right now, I'm picking Miami in 6. I could say Miami in 5, and they could wrap it up, and it would be whatever. But I think Boston may get one more win, and then I feel like Miami's going to finish it up. That's, of course, me looking at it just how it's being played out now. The Western Conference, on the other hand, Game 3, Denver did what Denver is known to do. They got a key win when their backs were against the wall, because of all things, you don't want to go down 3-0 against the Lakers. Now, this also then leads to our famous yet well-known Denver dilemma of being down 3-1, because they may lose game 4. They lose game 4 and be down 3-1. I don't think Denver's going to have that 3-game run to make it to the finals. Now, if they do, it does draw for a big conversation. Anyone who had the stretch of looking at Lakers and Celtics in the finals, you can write that off. I'm gonna say Miami's winning that series, and I think it's gonna be LA and Miami playing against each other. I think unless Jokic, Murray, Grant, and if they need the Michael Porter Jr. that can score and actually be a offensive factor to show up in order for them to have a solid season or to have a solid chance of coming back in this series. Now, like I said, it's still early on. Anything can happen, but I'm just picking LA and Miami for the finals. If I'm remembering correctly, all games barring, they should be able to get to the finals starting on October 1st. I might be freestyling a little bit, but that's what they're saying. Little more NBA news. Adam Silver is projected in saying that the highest possibility of starting next season is likely going to be me, mate, breaking the mic as usual. But we should be looking at the season getting back on track at the beginning of next season. I mean, the beginning of next year. They haven't gave a specific date yet. They want to, because everything's now kind of like time contingent, such as the draft is going to be in November. You still have to do NBA combines, like doing the not the combine, but getting the time in of players playing for summer league, as well as if you're going to still have preseason games. Will we still be in bubble mode? Adam Silver did project or state, and looking at it as it would not be surprising if they're trying to get fans back into the arenas, but we don't want to. As with anything, you don't want to rush it, so they're looking at that factor or those factors as well. We're going to now go into our weekly picks. And last week, I did better than I expected, but I'm glad that it wasn't a horrible week 2. There were some games that went how they did, and I just missed the mark on them, and it happens. But I didn't realize Minnesota was going to play as bad as they did. Carolina got bit by the injury bug. No excuse, but it still played into the game itself overall. And of course, they were playing against Tom Brady, so you knew what time it was. The New England matchup with Seattle was a little shocking, especially because it was a close game. And I mean, Cam Newton still had like a pretty good performance, even for it to be his getting his primetime game out of the way, for the season. That helped too. And the Monday Night Football game was the one that I was like, oh, I actually got that right, where Las Vegas played pretty good for their first home game in their new stadium. So, overall, like I said, I was 10-6. I am averaging a 63% record, 62.5 if you want to be specific, but that's what we got on that. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and do our weekly picks. Today is Thursday, so I will be adding Thursday's game into the mix. I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to solidify it now. The strongest shot is that the podcast will be done during the week. Now, if it comes to a week where I just know I'm not doing it, it'll be pushed to the weekend. And I may have already said that, but I wanted to make sure I place that context behind that before we go too far. So let's get our picks on tap. Miami's 0-2 playing against Jacksonville, who's won a game. Picking Jacksonville. I think to say what I was saying it, I just feel like this year is that, and I said it last week, but I'm going to stick to it. Miami's just not bringing it this year, and that's okay. Starting off with our Sunday games, Chicago at Atlanta. Chicago. Need I say more? I think I picked... Okay, I think I picked the Bears last week, so far so good. Rams at Buffalo, early reach for game of the week, but Rams on the road playing Buffalo. I'm going to pick the Rams for this one, and that's me just kind of semi-freestyling a little bit. Washington football team at Cleveland. Both teams are 1-1. I'm going to pick Washington for this one. And I'm typing all this out because I'm not going to want to... I'm going to still do editing, but I want to make sure I get everybody's name. I don't know why I'm explaining all this to y'all. Y'all know what time it is. Tennessee at Minnesota. Picking Tennessee, they've shown so far that they belong. They haven't really disappointed before, so why break the curse? Las Vegas at New England. Las Vegas I like Las Vegas so far, and even with them playing against Cam, it's kind of like okay, y'all beat Carolina, now beat New England, who has Cam Newton. But it's interesting looking at Las Vegas' start of the season. First game in Carolina, next game in their home stadium. Now they're coming right back over to the East Coast again for another game. I don't think the travel will still affect them, but I'm going to pick them for that matchup. Weird upset for me. San Fran at New York. I don't even know why I'm tripping. I need to really think about this. I'm going to pick the 49ers for this one. I initially was going to pick the Giants, but I'm just not pressed. 2 0-2 teams, Cincinnati and Philly. Picking Philly for this one. Houston at Pittsburgh. So far, Pittsburgh has shown me they're ready. They're here. I think this is going to be one of those quiet years for Pittsburgh where they're going to make the playoffs probably like by week 8 or 9, based on how they're playing so far. Pressing forward through our 4:00 games. Jets at Colts. Picking the Colts. Jets are already on the Fire Gase wave, which no surprise there. Carolina at the LA Chargers. Carolina, I want to pick y'all, but right now McCaffrey is out. Oh, well, you know what? Before we forget, because I want to make this mention early. There were a lot of injuries in the NFL from week 2, and this is going to play a big part into a lot of matchups this week. So it's good that I did not pick the Giants because Saquon Barkley is out for the rest of the year, and I'm picking against Carolina this week because Christian McCaffrey is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So I will be picking the LA Chargers for this one. Let's see. Detroit at Arizona. Didn't know Arizona was 2-0, but I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Go with Arizona for that one. Tampa Bay at Denver. Tampa Bay on the road. I know it's Tom Brady. Still gonna pick Denver for that one. Right now. Matter of fact, no. Well, I'm tripping. Tampa Bay will be 2-1. Tampa Bay would be 2-1, and that'll put Denver at 0-3. Why am I need to really think this out. Dallas at Seattle. I know everybody's on the Dallas bandwagon. This is our year. We're gonna make it turn up. I'm picking the Seahawks for that one. Late night game, Green Bay at New Orleans. All things barring, I'm picking the Packers. And for the Monday night game, which I think will probably be the game of the week, and I know I probably said it already for another matchup. I think I was looking at it for the Rams and the Bills because they're both 2-0. Kansas and Baltimore both 2-0 so far. Kansas on the road in Baltimore. You gotta show me something otherwise. But I know I'm gonna probably get grief from it from my sports group, but I'm actually gonna pick the Chiefs for this one. So those are the picks this week. We have no bye weeks. I mean, no teams have a bye this week, so we are still on pace for. We're gonna have 16 games, so hopefully we go. I won't say 16-0, but at least I will say 13-3. I know it's a reach, but hey, you gotta believe in order to achieve, right? Heading back into basketball. Ty Lawson was released by the Chinese basketball team, the Fujian Sturgeons, and it was based on a comment that was made on social media. In an Instagram story, Lawson said he meant no disrespect in his post. "You're taking it too far," Lawson said to the reaction of his post. In a statement, the Sturgeons said Lawson posted inappropriate comments on September 18th, a violation of the team's social responsibilities and core values policy. Fujian did not offer specifics other than to say Lawson will not be signed to a new deal. And they go over his credentials with the NBA as well as him playing overseas or just his career as a whole in the NBA. I had the post up initially, but I don't recall where I have it. But it did explain what exactly he said because that kind of led to what got us here. And I may find it. Let's because I'm all about giving context, and that's just how I do. Okay, that's not gonna play. The CBA. Free agent guard Ty Lawson addressed a controversial social media post that resulted in a lifetime ban from the Chinese Basketball Association, saying that he meant no disrespect. The CBA banned Lawson over the weekend after posting a picture of himself with a woman in an Instagram story, as relayed by Emiliano Garcia of Sportando. While the woman's face was not revealed, Lawson indicated elsewhere in the story that she was Chinese, writing that Chinese women got cakes on the low. This was a potential ass of the week, but we're going to, no pun intended. Lawson explained those remarks on social media. I'm probably the least racist guy you've ever met in your life. Like, I have fun with anybody. Cakes means that she had a nice body. That's it. You're taking it too far. I meant no disrespect, and all the racism and disrespect coming towards me is wild. Anybody who knows me in China knows I'm not that person at all. I was literally saying that she had a nice body and I danced at a club. Lawson is 5'11" and had been playing for the Fujian Sturgeon. His agent reportedly has terminated their relationship, leaving Lawson without representation. The Sturgeons then released a statement. His inappropriate words are inconsistent with the social responsibilities and values abided by our club and have brought serious adverse social impacts to the club and league. We will not sign it for a new season. And then he just get the same information that we got from ESPN. I get that he was trying to make a message, but you were trying to make a statement, but you also, it's when and where you do things, and that's something that is ignored sometimes, is that you have to always remember, even when you're not a representative, you're a representative. So in his case, like, you're representing our league, and if you make this type of a statement, you could be making it out of fun and out of gesture, but if it gets misinterpreted or if the wrong person reads it and gets offended, you can't. I think and the tough part is, we have control over what we say. We don't have control over the reactions behind what we say. And that sometimes gets ignored and or lost in translation, because we naturally know, like, hey, I made this statement, but I was making this statement in jest, not in a rude, derogatory, or negative way. And it then causes the outpours, the stir, the commotion, things of that nature. I'm not justifying what he said at all. He just should have thought it out better. That's literally my best statement or my best advice about it. And I'm not laughing at it, treating it mildly, because that is just something that you would not say online. Like, I'm not about to, like, that would be like me being at a party and I'm on my podcast. I have a podcast as a platform, but I'm also on my personal page posting, yo, she got them nice joints. And y'all gonna be like, what? She got what? Like, that would cause improper controversy for the sake of my brand and for the sake of the platform. And even with my personal page, like, I still am represented under that page because I have a blog that I have to uphold and maintain a form of a reputation on as well. This story is weird, but it's serious because it, again, is a possible ass of the week, but it's a strange situation for it to occur. So Tyrod Taylor's lung had been punctured, but it was punctured by the team doctor before the game against Kansas City. So this is the game last week. The team doctor accidentally punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung just before kickoff Sunday while trying to administer a pain-killing injection to the quarterback's cracked ribs, according to Coach Anthony Lynn. That's why Taylor did not start Sunday, and rookie quarterback Justin Herbert unexpectedly did against the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, in an arrangement that Lynn said will continue Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. Taylor's injury is not career-threatening, Lynn said, adding to the doctor just made a mistake. It happens. Lynn strongly backed Taylor on Sunday night and again this week. Many coaches believe that no player should lose his job to an injury, especially one that accidentally came at the hands of a team doctor. The Chargers previously said Taylor suffered complications from an injection. The NFL Players Association is investigating the medical mishap, according to NFLPA Assistant Executive Director of Internal Affairs, George Atala. Our medical and legal team have been in touch with Tyrod and his agents since Sunday, collecting facts. An investigation has been initiated. The injection that Taylor received is not entirely uncommon, but it carries a risk because a doctor injects without seeing where the needle is going. It is rare a player suffers a punctured lung from the injection, especially right before kickoff. So Taylor suffered 2 cracked ribs during the first drive of the Chargers' Week 1 win over the Cincinnati Bengals, but he played through the injury and didn't have an MRI until later that week. Taylor was added to the Chargers injury report with a rib injury Friday, but after he was a full participant in practice that day, the quarterback was removed from the report. He planned to take a pain-killing injection for the rib injury Sunday, but after the Chargers doctor punctured his lung, Taylor wound up in the hospital Sunday night to be treated for the injury and the struggles he had breathing. Doctors have advised Taylor not to play indefinitely. Lynn said Monday that if Tyrod is 100%, he's our quarterback. The Chargers want Taylor to continue as their quarterback because of the production and reliability. He has a winning record as a starting quarterback, didn't turn over the football in Week 1, and has the trust and respect of his teammates. Still, this is one of the craziest stories that I've read or seen in news, but it happened. So yeah, hopefully he makes a full recovery back from that injury, because that is definitely something that is not. It's something you wouldn't even be thinking could happen, but it did. Vanessa Bryant is suing the Los Angeles County Sheriff over photos of the crash that killed Kobe Bryant. She's filed a lawsuit against the LA County Sheriff, claiming deputies shared unauthorized photos of the crash that killed her husband, their 13-year-old daughter, and 7 others. After the crash, reports surfaced that graphic photos of the victims were being shared. Vanessa Bryant was shocked and devastated by the reports, the lawsuit states. The suit seeks damages for negligence, invasion of privacy, and internal infliction of emotional distress, which are all valid. I'm not going to read the story too much because we all remember what happened. I'm not going to minimize the action or the incident. I just want to bring light to this particular portion. And this is the battle with the media that I think a lot of us aren't ready to talk about, but it's time to talk about it. Sometimes the media shares things and it's considered but not considered of who sees what's being shared. And this is a prime example of that. When the story initially broke about him passing, let me backtrack. I don't want to say that. When the story was stated that a helicopter had crashed in Los Angeles, and the news circulated, or the story circulated of, there is a possibility that Kobe Bryant could be on that plane or on that helicopter, it caused a huge swirl of emotions at that particular time. It still does to this day. Let me be 100% clear in saying that. The media was very, very risky with a lot of how it all presented. And also, because we're in such a quick-handed social media, stories were being circulated or stories were being put out there that weren't actual stories. Perfect example. They had Rick Fox on the boat. As one of the passengers on the plane. So everyone's trying to get in contact with Rick Fox, not knowing what happened. And it's even harder because the person that will have the biggest impact, even with all of the other families and all the other people involved, is Vanessa, because it wasn't just her husband, it was her daughter. And that was and can be a lot on her. I really am truly hoping that Los Angeles gets this resolved from the legal aspect. It's going to, be based on if it was justified to share what they shared. And that is where the legal side comes into play and Brian steps out, because I really don't know or would have never thought about it in that aspect or to that extreme. At least from my recollection of it. I'm going to do something a little different because I realized that one of my stories, I'm wanting to make this a regular story, but it actually is going to be an ass of the week. And we're going to save that for that point. So we're going to go into stuff. And as I get everything loaded and prepared for stuff, I want to let everyone in on a true yet transparent statement. Now this story, I mean, well, not this story, but this week's show is, as you probably are going to be aware, it's going to be a simple, to the point show. I'm not really going to do a whole lot of blah blah like I normally would. I'm just more here to share what has been going on or what is going on right now in the world. I have a big story that I'm going to get into for Pass the Message that may be a little touching, but I'm going to share it because it needs to be shared. But we'll get to that in a bit. And before I forget, because I'll go ahead and get out of the way now, new music, didn't really see or catch any new albums that were in my immediate scope of listening to. Now, I don't recall if we had already recorded the show or not, but I did listen to Alicia Keys' new album, and for the most part, I will admit I was pretty impressed with the album. A lot of people, have their love and hate for different artists or different songs, but I definitely can say this was an album that was done pretty good. And this album did come out last Friday. So like we had recorded the show. The show ended up, I think, being uploaded on Saturday, and I didn't have that album listed, but it was a good album. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm probably, like I said, I'm freestyling a little bit today, but y'all know how I do. There weren't any other albums that I really went and listened to. I know I did give that one its attention because I like, anyone that knows me knows that I'm definitely an Alicia Keys fan by far. So yeah, that's what I have for that. And before I forget, because she did make an album and it definitely got a lot of rotation from me. And I'm going. Oh, actually, I need to listen to it again. Corinne Hawthorne has a new album called I Am. Please check out that album. It's a very melodic gospel album that was able to help me through a couple of rough patches over the last few days, and that's all I'm gonna give on that. And it's not me being minimal or not giving information. It's just when you go through things, life carries you, and this is probably me needing to let down a layer, which I'm going to let down in the Pass the Message, but I'm freestyling a little bit so y'all know how I do. Going into our stuff, there wasn't much technology that was talked about. There is one technology story that I will share, but it's kind of a nostalgic technology. But the big story, last Saturday, Joe Budden did his last podcast under Spotify. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because I'm that person. Him leaving Spotify is not me leaving Spotify. I'm going to still upload on Spotify. I'm still going to listen to music on Spotify. I'm still going to utilize the streaming service. Now, I know that's going to cause a lot of questions and controversy, but at the end of the day, it's your choice or your option of where you listen to music. We're in a digital era with music. Like in most cases, anyone that knew me will tell you I was the guy who would have been last to get any type of a digital streaming platform because I didn't see a purpose of using it. A friend of mine a couple years back introduced me to Apple Music, and as the saying goes, the rest was history. Same applied with Spotify. When I first heard about Spotify, I was like, what's so good about Spotify? And then I realized like the amount of playlists, how creative you can be with playlists, things of that sort. The existence of the playlist creativity in Apple may be a thing, but I don't personally think it's the same as it is in Spotify. Now that's me talking with about, I'd almost say 2 years of listening with Spotify. So it's all on your preference or your connection between which app works for you personally. But I give all of that information because after Joe left Spotify, he has now created what was known as, or what is known as, and has been in existence, but no one really knew about it until he really brought it to full circle, is the Joe Budden Network. And this is a big deal because this kind of gives him the flexibility to do what he wants to do with his content. Like, Joe has had content in the queue for a while. And I think this gives him that flexibility on really presenting what to present in that scope. He's been doing pull-ups. He's been doing State of the Culture. Now granted, State of the Culture is part of Revolt. Pull-up is under his platform. The podcast was under his platform. The cartoons we're going to still see under his platform because he has someone who he's working with on that. In the event that we're out of COVID, if they go on tour, that'll be under his umbrella. And, then it just comes down to your main factor of sponsorships and ad-based, revenue and things of that sort. Ownership is pretty much what Joe Budden was aiming for from the jump. His recent dispute with Spotify came across as a bit more dramatic than what it was, but Joe Budden's been doing his thing for a minute. And he shouldn't be looked at as crazy for asking a major corporation to cut the check. The Joe Budden podcast has officially fulfilled his contractual agreements with Spotify, and now Joe declares that time we get to have some fun. Joe Budden took to the gram where he announced the Joe Budden Network is officially moving forward with his first non-Joe hosted production, See the Thing Is podcast. Hosted by Bridget Kelly, Mandy B, and Olivia Dope, the latest podcast to launch from the Joe Budden Network will cover the topics that Joe, Mal, and Rory probably shouldn't discuss. Starting on October 6th and every Tuesday thereafter, you can hear these amazing ladies talk their shit on most DSPs. Not sure what they'll say because I'm staying out of women's business. LOL. But they're bold, committed, opinionated, and have a lot to say. It's an interesting move for Joe, especially if you've followed his career before podcasting. From vlogging on YouTube to launching his own network, Joe Budden is building his media empire from the ground up. And that's mainly all they give on this. So, what makes this an interesting trio? Now, I don't know much about Olivia Dope. Let me be clear. Bridget has been on the podcast before. She was on Joe's podcast a while back. And Mandy has been in a couple of videos with Joe as well. And the only thing that I always like to give disclaimers because I want to make sure I'm covered. I'm intrigued by how this is going to go with Mandy having her show, having this podcast under Joe's network, and also doing Horrible Decisions, which is part of the Black Podcast Network under iHeartRadio. How that's all going to go, we'll see. I don't want to say it, but I will because I have the platform and it could be possible. Do not be surprised or intrigued if Horrible Decisions moves to the Joe Budden Network, if there's any incentives or any financial gains involved. Just putting it out there. And this is another thing, and I want to say this while I'm talking about these stories of these podcasts. It makes a lot more sense now in listening to Joe talk on the podcast as to why he didn't say a lot of what he said during the podcast. Because he couldn't put a lot of things out in the open because everything had to kind of happen on his own before he could really make any announcements. Because like anything, and like he was even being told before all of this, he had to make sure his contractual obligation was done before doing anything stupid or making any decisions that could risk him making the Joe Budden Network get a little bit more attention. So I'm looking forward to it. I didn't realize how big of a supporter of Joe I was until I really started paying attention to the podcast, as well as realizing like I had been doing. I'm not gonna say I've been doing podcasts before Joe. Joe had been doing it before me, but when I really got into it, I was learning. I think I've told people before. I was listening to Shaq's podcast. I was listening to, I think Dan Patrick was talking on his. There were a couple shows that I was getting a couple of ideas from about podcasting, and then I jumped in. But I like it because, like I've said this on the show before, and I even gave a friend of mine this tip yesterday. No one is coming to my podcast. People come to the podcast to hear a story. Of course, that's given, that's granted. I mean, that's expected. But they're also coming because they want to hear who the person is behind the microphone. Or they want to see what makes this person behind his microphone better than those said individuals who have a higher or stronger platform behind their microphone. And you have to be able to do what is going to work to your best interest. Like, if I got the opportunity to get 100,000 or 1 million streams on a podcast, I'm here for it. I would love it. It would be a dream come true. But I'm also more inclined to getting the good content through my show. Like I haven't listened to them in a while, but The Read was a good podcast for me. A lot of shows do fall into my podcast listening queue. I wish she came back, but I was listening. I tell people all the time, Aisha Tyler did a podcast, and it was one show I listened to, and I think it was the last one she did that just stuck with me as a up and coming sponge to podcasting and learning how to get the format down of podcasting. So, like I said, we're gonna see what this all brings and what it entails for Joe and for his network and for his crew and for the team, and most of all for black men and women, creatives, black men and women designers, talents, etc. And before I go into the next story, anyone who is a creative, do not minimize yourself in your creativity. And I'm even saying this for me. Like, creativity is key in your content. Because if you aren't being open to being creative, you will minimize your creativity without trying. And that's all I'm gonna say. Halo 3 ODST has returned. It is considered as one of the greatest video game. They have a nostalgic moment sharing the greatest video game trailer. I personally will say, from a gaming standpoint, one of the first shooters that really stuck with me. I played Call of Duty, of course, but Halo 3 had stories for days for me that a lot of people would be surprised by when it comes down to just gaming and how my love or passion for Xbox really got going. Halo 3 ODST is out on Steam. It's a fresh new addition to the Master Chief Collection, letting a whole new generation of players take part in one of the defining games of the series' golden age, and they take you back to the actual video or the trailer of the game. When I say this is the series' golden age, I mean the years 2007 to 2010 or 2010 were probably the apex of Halo's popularity. The point when what had been one of the biggest video game launches of all time, Halo 3, and what generally considered the franchise's critical high, reached before things started tailing off after the series moved from Bungie to Microsoft. Coming in between those two games was ODST, ostensibly a mini sequel for Halo 3 and actually set during the events of Halo 2, but really more of a spin-off which put players in command of a squad of elite ODST troops operating behind enemy lines. It was the first time we'd been in control of mere mortals instead of a godlike Master Chief or his Covenant counterpart. And his firefight multiplayer remains one of the best horde modes ever made. But whatever, we're not here to talk about the game. We're here to talk about his trailer. And I'm going to be honest, if you want to watch the trailer, and I'm not downplaying it, but they do have the actual ad itself, if you want to look at it, on the link that's provided in the show notes. Next up, Amazon Prime Day. I might have talked about it on the show that it might have been canceled or pushed back. Amazon Prime Day is expected to be October 13th, which is actually the slated date after when Apple is going to do their announcement of the iPhone. That story has been rumored. I'm not putting it out there yet until there's an actual post that says Apple keynote for iPhone will be on this date. But a lot of people are saying it's going to be on the 12th. But Amazon Prime Day is looking to be done on October 13th. They'll make an official announcement of this on next Sunday, or September the 27th. Amazon warehouse workers were told no new vacation requests will be accepted between the 13th and the 20th, which suggests that the company needs all hands on deck for Prime Day. An Amazon spokesperson said in an email to The Verge that the company has not announced any dates for Prime Day. Stay tuned for more details on Prime Day, the spokesperson said, adding that customers can ask Alexa devices to keep them updated about Prime Day. See, I learned. My microphone is off. Not having that happen again. The e-commerce giant is keeping a tight lid on any leaks about this year's Prime Day, which was postponed from July due to the coronavirus pandemic. A promotional poster from personal care company Braun that surfaced last week showing its Prime Day deals in mid-October disappeared from several sites following an inquiry from The Verge. At that point, Amazon would only confirm that Prime Day would be in Q4, which means sometimes after October 1st. Whatever the date, Amazon likely wants to keep Prime Day and Black Friday sales from overlapping. Makes plenty of sense. And it's just other information about it. Black Friday deals are expected to begin showing up on Amazon around October 26th. And then you also know the infamous Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals for Amazon is the big deal too. So yeah, that's kind of the ins and outs of your of Prime Day when it actually occurs. We will more than likely get an actual official date next week. So by next show, which I will definitely be putting a bigger amount of time towards, we'll have our because next show is International Podcast Day. It will be done on that day, and I'm likely going to be. I need to make sure I solidify, but I will be having a guest on that day, so we'll be getting that going. This is going. I got a hunch. I got a fun idea of what I'm gonna do with that show, but I'm going to make it very, very creative. You know how I do. So we have a pass of the week and then we have an ass of the week. So our pass of the week is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She is the demure firebrand who in her 80s became a legal, cultural, and feminist icon. She passed on Friday. The Supreme Court announced her death, saying the cause was complications from metastatic cancer of the pancreas. She did pass at the age of 87. Architect of the legal fight for women's rights in the 1970s, Ginsburg subsequently served 27 years on the nation's highest court, becoming its most prominent member. Her death will inevitably set in motion what promises to be a nasty and tumultuous political battle over who will succeed her, and it thrusts the Supreme Court vacancy into the spotlight of the presidential campaign. Just days before her death, as her strength, I'm not laughing, but this is like interesting because I'm gonna bring something to the forefront about why this is interesting. Because this makes her a pass of the week, but an undercover smooth ass of the week for making this statement. Because I respect it. Just days before her death, as her strength waned, Ginsburg dictated this statement to her granddaughter, Clara Sparrow. My most fervent wish is that I will not be replaced until a new president is installed. The reason that this is interesting or why I like this is because it may not have even been a week after her passing. She passed like over the weekend, or within the. I don't know. Why am I saying over the weekend? She most recently passed, and before it could even be, put into perspective and talked about, it already had turned into, okay, let's look for a replacement. And you see Trump trying to find someone to put in that role. And I'm just like, y'all not even going to try to listen to what she said or like fulfill her wishes. It's like, we going to do what we want to do anyway. And it told a lot without telling a lot. And that was what I gathered from just that one particular statement. Let me make sure I get the correct date. Yeah, because it was on the 6th. So it was last week. But she knew what was to come. Ginsburg's death will have profound consequences for the court and the country. Inside the court, not only is the leader of the liberal wing gone, but with the court about to open a new term, the Chief Justice no longer holds a controlling vote in closely contested cases. Though Roberts has a consistently conservative record in most cases, he is split from fellow conservatives in a few important ones this year. Excuse me. Casting his vote with liberals, for instance, to protect at least temporarily the so-called dreamers from deportation by the Trump administration, to uphold a major abortion precedent, and to uphold bans on large church gatherings during the coronavirus pandemic. But with Ginsburg gone, there is no clear court majority for those outcomes. And there are other things that are talked about during this in this article. I'm going to, before I go to Ass of the Week, I want to give a few important dates that you may want to mark on your calendar. And I'm promising you, because I know I usually don't, this is not a politically based podcast, but we're still going to talk about this for its, for all that's been going on. Next Tuesday, September 29th, October 15th, and October 22nd, we will have 3 presidential debates that will occur on different platforms. One will be moderated by Fox News. One will be moderated by Steve Scully of C-SPAN. And the final one will be moderated by Kristen Welker of the NBC News. These will be in Cleveland, Miami. Let me make sure I'm getting it right. Yes, in Miami and Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee. And then the vice presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence will be on October the 7th in Salt Lake City. So I'm giving you those dates because it's going to really cause an eye-opener on multiple levels for this upcoming election. And I am saying this because it's not to beat a dead horse, but it is to put the reality or put the truth to the light. Please get out and vote. I am 100% aware a lot of people do not vote and or do not see the need or urgency to vote. But do not complain about anything politics related if you do not vote. And I am not sitting here pointing fingers. I am not here judging those who choose or do not choose. But it's tough for me to listen to someone who does not vote give an opinion on anything political related when you have not voted. I always bring this story to people about why voting is a big deal. Various laws that happen locally are why it's important to vote. It's not just the presidential election that's important to vote about. And I mean that, and I say that with that tone because it's always, whenever people hear about voting, we should just vote because, voting's not important because it's just the president. I'm like, And that is where, I won't even say the school system, I think that is where families and friends and life has just not helped us really be educated on. It's not just the presidential elections. It's not even just local elections. It's little things that are and or aren't done that can make an impact on your life or your routine without knowing it. And that's all I'm going to leave you with for that. Now, I initially had this as a sports story, but I'm going to make it an ass of the week. Darius Leonard, who plays for the Indianapolis Colts, gave a fan his glove. And inside the glove, it happened to be his wedding ring. I'm going to freestyle this article. You can read the article and it'll kind of say what I'm about to share. He provided he made a fan's day, gave them the ring. Gave them the glove, which inside the glove, it happened to have the ring. The fan then went on to make the player's wife aware that the ring was in the glove and would like to return it. He was then able to get the ring back, and in return, he was given a jersey of the team. Now, granted, yes, I know he can't give him a ticket to a game since there aren't any games at any arenas right now. But that was the best you could do, was the jersey for the ring. And it just was, you could tell he was lighthearted about it, but it was also, and I think the reason I'm saying the player was lighthearted about it is because he's even went on to say, and he says this in an article, I'm still planning to wear my ring during the game. I'm just going to keep a closer eye on if I give a glove away that my ring is not in the glove in that circumstance. So I'm glad that the fan did the right thing. It was interesting. It was ass of the week only because it was like, all right, you got the ring back, but a jersey, that's the trade-off. That was a way of equaling or balancing it out. Okay. If that's what works, go for it. I ain't even judging. I ain't mad. So we're at the end of the show, and I'm usually pretty good because I think now I'm learning to get the shows within that hour without it being too hectic or too over the top. My message to pass along to you all today is that and I'm not even sure where I want to start with this message, but I'm gonna just talk about it. America has a long way to grow. I'm not gonna say a long way to go because that dream is far-fetched. And before I say what I'm about to say, I want to get some social vocalists out of the way first. Many people were already aware and should be aware that the family was provided the $3 million, which in hindsight was considered as an agreement. That then would lead to the grand jury and the government doing what the government does and saying, all right, you got money. We're going to still let him walk and let everything press forward like nothing happened. Stating that the crime or the issue was that other homes were shot at and no harm was done to anyone, but it was actual damage to the property, made it clear that the justice for Breonna Taylor was they got $3 million. We have a bigger fight on our hands, but we also have a country that is battling to grow. And this is a prime example of why, going back to what I stated, we need to get out and vote. Because if I'm someone living in Kentucky or in Louisville, excuse my French, I would get his ass voted out of there immediately. I would be trying to do every absentee ballot. I would get any older person who who still does go vote, I would be getting every voter to do their part and go vote, especially with that type of a circumstance or a situation to occur. I share those sentiments and I share those thoughts to pass this message along that right now, right here, we are in a trying time as a world, as a community, as a society. We can't give up on who we are based on what is going on around us. And I give those thoughts in that tone because if you know and you are true to your feelings, you know for a fact that this is not going to be easy. It's not meant to be easy. I had a friend of mine who just, people have been talking to me more in really knowing when I've not been okay and just making statements or making actions that I have to really be in this. I have to be prepared because it's coming. Things are gonna come at you. We know that. We hear it, we see it, we realize it. But this all it really came to a head when I really looked at it, and a friend of mine talked to me, and he just gave me his simple thoughts about how he felt, and I couldn't give any grief and or pushback because he was 100% right. He was like, just checking in on your mental being. And I said, I'm having my moments. He was like, what's up? I gave him the breakdown of what was a couple things that was going on. And his advice literally was, seek God in prayer every day. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to have any type of a belief in any form of spiritual or religious being. But you have to have the right grounding and the right placement to know that this is whatever you're going through, you're going to get through it. And him sharing that message, among other things happening to me this week, reminded me of that. I told a couple of people this story. I had it on my personal Twitter page or social page, but I didn't share it publicly, so I'm going to talk about it now. My emotional and my mental, my emotional space and my mental space have been everywhere. It's just what it is. And I didn't realize the extent of it until hanging out and just being disconnected. And I'm still trying to personally get the distinction between being disconnected and being disinterested. I was more disconnected than I was disinterested. I was interested in what was what, but I was disconnected just because I was in my own headspace about everything. And a friend who was there, I'm not going to give any names, just gave me a hug, and it was like what I needed to kind of know that it's okay. And then the next day, I went to see my mom. And in talking to my mom, normally anytime our interactions occur, they're brief and I'm on my way. This particular day, I was like, Mom, I need a hug. And she kind of did like the turn around, put your arm out, I'm gonna hug you type of thing. And I was like, no, I need a real hug. And she got up and gave me a hug. And it was, and I'm sharing this story because it's a relevance behind it. That was the first time she had hugged me. I almost want to say this year. And I might be exaggerating a little, but I also think, I know since the pandemic has hit and there's not been any interaction, like affection to that extreme with her. And it was really what I needed. It was helpful in getting me to shut up and be grateful. It was beneficial in me realizing that I am enough. I have a greater value. You know, to my big bro, and he's been on. I'm sitting here like, why am I? And I'm forgetting he was on the show. So this is a dedication portion to Clarence, to my twin Ramona, to my mom. Thank y'all. There are others that I can thank. I've always, I did it. 300, I spent an eternity thanking a lot of people. And it was a lot of people that after I did the show, I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't thank this person. But thank you. It's messages or DMs or just words of affirmation that I've received that don't go unnoticed. Avis, still, I'm like I told her before, I'm still working on getting a second shirt with her, but that's another story. I'm the message that I'm here to pass along is value who you are, and more importantly, and I shared this as a message yesterday, and I still want to share it as a valuable thought today. And this is, matter of fact, I've shared a couple of passing messages in this context, and they're not ignored or downplayed, but I'm going to share this as the message that I wrote, and it was on my spirit last night. If 2020 hasn't taught us anything else, it's that black men and women should really see each other through and through. Men need to value the worth of women and all the pain they endure, and women should look at how important men value that affection or ear to listen. In other words, women go through quite a fair share of hurt, a fair amount of pain, physically, mentally, emotionally, through everything, and somehow still come out standing. The hurt and the physical moments that occur, they value men to be there in their corner through whatever it is, or whoever their significant other is if you are not straight or part, as I are saying, as part of the LGBTQIA community. For men, most men don't want to say it enough, but most men just want a true voice and a true care. We can sit there, and black men, you can fight me on this and I'm okay with it. You can sit and say all you want, oh, I'm good, I don't need no hug, I'm strong, I got this. But the right woman gives you a hug, everything changes. And for women, those times of feeling like you are stronger than you are, black women, black men are there to help you reduce that strength. And you may or may not see it, but we're there. We pay attention. We might not react or speak on every inkling of a thing that we see or notice, but we're there. We're as there as we can be. And that's what I want to leave y'all with for this show is be there. Be available. Be, like Maisha and I, we talk, she brings it up frequently on the podcast, and I'm beginning to get it more. Be present. Be in the moment. If you're not in the moment, you miss it. And that's what I've been missing the last couple of weeks. And now I'm beginning to gain that and obtain how important it is to be there for others, but most importantly, being there for you. So that's where I'm at. That's what I got. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, rest in peace. Breonna Taylor, rest in peace. George Floyd, rest in peace. Any black men and women we've lost due to police brutality, prayers and condolences to all of your families. Anyone who has been affected or impacted by COVID-19, whether it's in being sick or actually losing family members due to them passing, I send nothing but positivity to you all. And on that note, this is the past. I'm BT. Like I said, we got a great show coming up next week. And until next time, y'all take it easy. Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for the past. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using a Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samson Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, the Pass BT. That's THE Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials. And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on the Pass. Until next time, this is your host BT signing out.